Hi everyone, welcome to 373 Inquiry-Based Learning in Early Childhood Care and Education. My name is Alex and I'm going to be your instructor for this course. In this video, I'm going to give you a rundown of some of the assignments that we'll be engaging with in this course, and I'm going to leave it up to you to read through the week 1 PowerPoint that's posted on Moodle in week 1 to get a better sense of the policies and expectations of the course. One thing that I will point out to you is that I won't be able to accept any late assignments or offer extensions in this course because it's only 3 weeks and it's very condensed, and we're going to be moving quickly through some of these, through this work. So there won't be opportunities for extensions or late assignments. So this week, we're basically going to be orienting ourselves to the course, taking a look at the content, getting to know the text and the assignments, and then we'll also be grounding ourselves in social constructivist or posthuman and new materialist theory, which are different things. And I'll go into that further in a moment. So I'm just going to briefly go through some of the assignments. So weekly responses and engagement on Moodle these first 2 weeks is worth 40% of your grade. In these responses, it's intended for you to make meaning of the course content and readings through collective dialogue in the online forums and through visual and textual processes. So your engagement on Moodle is worth 10% of your grade. So I'm going to be grading that based on your participation in the forums, your engagement in the content, evidence that you've been reading, and how those readings and the theory is manifesting itself in your dialogue. You also will have 2 responses. One is due Sunday, August 18th at 11:55 p.m. and that's worth 15% of your grade. I'm going to go into that in a minute because I want to talk a little bit about the theoretical perspectives that are going to guide that first response. And then your second response will be due in week 2 on the Sunday again, August 25th at 11:55 p.m. and that second response is also worth 15%. And I'll speak more about that next week. Your inquiry project has a few different aspects to it. There will be an individual notation aspect of the inquiry project that will be due the Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday mornings of the face-to-face class. These individual notations are worth 10% of your grade, and you don't have to worry about this yet. This is something that we'll talk about more on the Monday of the first class. But basically during that week, you're expected to engage in ongoing practices of pedagogical narration in a group by keeping notations, traces, artifacts, process images, and basically little tidbits of your narrating of these experiences that you're going to have throughout the week. So from Wednesday to Friday mornings, you're expected to bring these drafts, artifacts, little tracings, in process notations in print form to class to contribute to the evolving collaborations and experimentations. So those that Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday morning, you will be bringing those to me and just checking off for completion to show that you've been engaging in that work. So those notations will contribute to your group inquiry project. It's a pedagogical narration that will be due the Saturday after class finishes. Class has ended at that point, August 31st at 11:55 p.m. And this group project is worth 20% of your grade. So you'll be choosing one of the following artistic expressive processes to investigate. So you can think with drawing, clay, painting, photography, dance, or music. If you have another idea, we can talk about that as well. I'm open to other artistic processes, of course. During our face-to-face sessions, you will design a living inquiry with other classmates that explores a topic, problem, or a process and engages with your selected medium or artistic process as a language. So in this inquiry, you should be demonstrating an attentive and critical look at practice that involves cycles of questioning, reflection, and action as reflected in the BC Early Learning Framework. You'll be engaging in practices and processes of pedagogical narration throughout the inquiry that week. And then finally, you'll be synthesizing and conceptualizing some of the emerging ideas and themes and kind of thicker ideas that emerge in these processes, and you'll be creating a finished and interpretive pedagogical narration. So your final version should really be an interpretive document that introduces, illustrates, narrates, and conceptualizes your inquiry and draws out key themes and concepts and the central characteristics of this particular artistic process or language that your group chose. And this will be submitted to Moodle on that Saturday as a PowerPoint or a keynote presentation. So it'll be about 12 to 20 slides. You will also have a group presentation on Friday, August 30th. That's worth 20% of your grade. So on this final day of the course, each group will present their inquiry projects and processes to the rest of us. And so it's expected that this presentation not only shares your narration and the emergence of the inquiry, but also really situates it within the core literature of the course. So you'll need to, in this presentation, make explicit connections between social constructivist or posthuman and new materialist theory and how these theoretical perspectives lived in your inquiry pedagogically. So consider the pedagogical decision-making processes that your group engaged with, what your group was paying attention to, and the ways that you were paying attention to something based on that theoretical perspective that you were taking up, what was responded to, and what was resisted or challenged in taking up this theoretical lens. So your presentations will be no longer than 15 minutes to allow for dialogue and questions afterwards. And in this way, I think sometimes it's generative to end your presentation with some sort of loose thread. It doesn't need to tie up in a nice bow at the end, but if we leave things a little bit loose, maybe with some sort of provocation or a question or a tension that your group is still staying with, then that will help to propel some conversations after you're finished for the group. Also, your participation during the face-to-face week is worth 10%. So quality participation, I don't think, is based on how much is spoken, but rather I'll be grading your participation based on evidence of sustained critical thought, attentiveness to the readings, and the depth of your contributions to the group. So also, given the fast-paced and condensed nature of this course, missing any classes or excessive lateness will put you at risk in failing just because we don't have a lot of time, and it wouldn't be good to miss too much. So just some quick notes on your online engagement on Moodle. The weekly responses are weighted significantly. There's only 2 and they're worth 30% of your mark. They're going to be short, but each one is weighted quite heavily. So you'll need to really make visible how you're making sense of the course material. What I'm looking for is that your writing is very clear and concise, and that you spent time thinking about the language that you're using, and that these responses are carefully written, that your use of language and wording is intentional and thoughtful, and it reflects the theoretical orientation that you are discussing, that you're showing depth and complexity and critical thought. You'll need to show a strong attention to the readings and how you're grappling with the concepts that are being presented. These responses are not about your personal opinions or experiences or what you think ought to be done in early childhood education. These aren't self-reflective pieces, but more so exercises to help you situate theory in an inquiry-based approach to learning. So what you will do is you'll need to draw from the literature and the course content explicitly and pay attention to the author's dispositions and orientations and try to think alongside them in your composition of these responses. Yes, and what else? So by the Monday of each week, you'll respond to 2 other posts in the response forum. And when responding to others, I just encourage you to say more than not about how you feel about the post or that you liked something that was said. It's also not enough to say that something was interesting. A response that enriches an idea and goes beyond the surface needs to really unpack how and why something is interesting. Why is something engaging? What is maybe troubling or provocative or tensioned about this idea that's being presented? What does this post provoke you to think about? What connections do you make from this post to the readings? And perhaps there's a quote from another text or another article that we're reading that further enhances the idea that's being generated in the post. So your responses in the online dialogue are intended to help you grapple with and tease apart some of these ideas and to activate meaning beyond what we already know with some sort of dissensus and dialogue. So that's just some feedback to help you prepare for your responses. So I'm going to shift gears now and just talk a little bit about the theoretical perspectives that we're going to be taking up in this course.